All right, in 2.1, we're looking at the relationship between two categorical variables, okay? And how do you graph them, basically, is what we're going to look at in this section. The first step in describing the relationship between two categorical variables is to determine which variable is the response variable and which one's the explanatory, okay? So here's the definition. Make sure you write these down. A response variable measures the outcome of a study. An explanatory variable measures or helps predict or explain the changes in the response variable. So response variable is the outcome, okay? And the explanatory explains. Now, if you're used to algebra, the way you can remember this is the explanatory is the x variable. Okay, it goes along the x-axis, if you will. And the response is the y. Okay, so which one affects the other? You could say the explanatory is the independent variable, and the response is the dependent variable. It's just a different terminology in statistics. So we have explanatory and response. Okay, in some relationships it's not clear which one is which, but most of them you can tell. So let's try this. The problem, here it is. Identify the explanatory response variables for the following relationship: anger level, low, moderate, or high, and whether or not a person has coronary heart disease. So you have to stop and think. Is anger level contributing to heart disease, or does heart disease contribute to anger level? Well, the most logical thing to think is that the anger level is going to be on the x-axis, if you will. It's the independent, and it's affecting the level of heart disease. So explanatory would be anger level, and the response variable would be coronary heart disease. Okay, so anger level explains coronary heart disease. That's what we're trying to say. And we'll have a lot of practice. Now, after you identify the explanatory variable, the next step is to display the distribution of the response variable for each category of the explanatory variable. This can be done with side-by-side bar charts, or what we call segmented bar charts. A segmented bar chart displays the possible values of a categorical variable as segments of a rectangle, with the area of each segment proportional to the percent of individuals in the corresponding category. All right, it's a lot of words, but it basically is two bars, okay? And we're going to walk through an example of this. So here's an example. It's already done. The figure shows the side-by-side bar chart and corresponding segmented bar chart that displays the relationship between gender and preferred superpower. So you can do it this way, but this way here on this with two bars. But what I want you to do in this assignment is to do this segmented bar chart. And I'm going to show you how. But notice there's only two bars. One is female, one is male, because we're looking to find the relationship between gender and the superpower they wanted. So notice that they're both at 100%. And within the females, we broke it up. And like this percentage here was invisibility, then a very small percentage was super strength. The blue is telepathy. A lot of females want telepathy, while very few males want telepathy. Look at the yellow segment. A lot of males would prefer to freeze time, while women not so much. So you can tell a lot from a segmented bar chart. These are sometimes called stacked bar charts because they are a result of stacking bars from a side-by-side bar chart. So here's the steps to create that. So write these steps down, identify the variables, determine which variable is explanatory and which is the response. Draw and label the axis. You're going to put the name of the explanatory variable under the horizontal axis. To the left of the vertical axis, you're going to indicate if the graph shows the percent or proportion of individuals in each category of the response variable. You're going to scale the axis. You're going to write the names of the categories of the explanatory variable under the horizontal axis. On the vertical axis, you're going to start at 0 for 0% and place tick marks at equal intervals until you reach 100 or 1. You're going to draw 100% bars above each category of names of the explanatory variable on the horizontal axis. Make the bars equal in width and leave gaps between them. Make sure they don't touch. Segment each of the bars. For each category of the explanatory variable, calculate the relative frequency for each category of the response variable. Okay, that's just find the percentage of each. I'll show you that. Then divide the corresponding bar so that the area of each segment corresponds to the proportion of individuals in each category of the response variable. Include a key that identifies the different categories of the response. All right, a lot of words. Let's try this out. Now, once you've done it, we're going to do one. What does this tell us? We can tell if there's an association between the two variables. All right. There is an association between two variables if knowing the value of one helps predict the value of the other. If knowing the value of one variable does not help us predict the value of the other, then there's no association. So basically, what are you looking at? You're looking at how are the two bars broken up. If the two bars are broken up identically, then there's no association. But if the spaces in the bars look different, there is an association. So looking at this again, remember the gender versus percentage. We can see that there's an association between gender and superpower because the width of, for instance, the green is different for males and females. The width of the blue is different for females and males. And the red, it's different. So that indicates there is an association between gender and preferred superpower. Now, let's try an example. Data on gender and whether or not a person had allergies were obtained from a random sample of 227 students who responded to a survey on the Census at School website. Make a segmented bar chart to display the relationship between allergy status and gender for students in the sample. All right, so before drawing the chart, you have to find the percentages of the results based on the explanatory variable. All right, so here's what this looks like. What's our explanatory variable? You got to remember the explanatory variable is the age, right? And we have 3 categories of ages. So I'm going to kind of recreate my table. Okay, so to create my table and find my percentages, what I'm going to do is look at each age group individually. So if you look at the total of 18 to 34, there's 517. So to find the percentage that use the iPhone in that age group, I take that 169 divided by 517, and I get 32.7%. Okay? Android, I take 214 and divide it by 517, and I get 41.4%. Okay? And then on the others, when I do 134 divided by 517, I get 26.1. Okay? Now, I move on to the next explanatory variable, this age group, 35 to 54. And I use this total of 637. So I do 171 over 637. I get 26.8. These are all percent. 189 over 637. I get 29.7%. And then 277 out of 637, I get 43.4%. Then I do the same thing for this last category. You can see I took the individual total of that age group divided by the column total of 870. And so here's my percentages, 14.6%, 11.5%, and then 73.9%. Now, these percentages are essential to be able to make the segmented bar graph. So what we're going to do is use those percentages to draw the graph. All right, so what I have here are my percentages for each of the categories that we calculated on the previous slide. So now we make a segmented bar chart. Remember, the first thing I need to do is label the explanatory variables. What's my explanatory variables? It's age. So I have 3 groups. I do 18 through 34, 35 through 54, and then 55 plus. And I can label that general as age. Okay? And these are percentages. So I start at 0, go to 100%, mark 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 10, 20, 30, 40. Okay? So then the next thing I do is build my 100% bars, because remember, each of these adds up to 100%, right? Sorry, it's a little crooked. You should use a straight edge when you're doing this, so it's nice and neat. All right, so notice they're all add up to 100%. Now, 18 through 34, I'm going to use these values right here. Now, I need to have a key, something to differentiate the iPhone, the Android, and the other pieces. Now, could you use colors? Sure. Could you just use patterns? That's fine too. It does not matter at all. So for iPhone, I'm going to just leave it blank and open. For Android, I'm going to put polka dots. And for other, I'm going to stripe it. That's easy to do. All right, now, first look at your 18 through 34 group. iPhone, 32.7, so I'm going to count up. 10, 20, 32, so right here, this portion below is blank because it represents the iPhone. Now, for the next one, I know that Android is 41.4%, but that's on top of the 32.7. So if I add those up, let's see, I get 74.1. All I did was do 32.7 plus that 41.4, and I get 74.1. So that brings me all the way up here. And this next section represents Android now. I got to put polka dots on that. And then the last section is 26.1%, so that should add up pretty good. So I'm going to stripe it. Okay. So then I'm going to do the same thing for the 35 to 54s. iPhone is 26.8, 10, 20, there. The next one is 29.7, that's almost 30%. So that would be at 56%. That's 50. Oh, yeah, right around there. Right around there. Okay, so that's Android. So I'm going to polka dot it. And the rest, 43.4%, is striped. 55 plus, only 14.6% were iPhones. That's going to be a very small part, so I'm going to leave that part blank. 11.5% were Android, so if I add up 14.6 and 11.5, I get 26.1. Very small portion use iPhones, or Android, sorry. Polka dot it. And the rest of this gets striped. 73.9%. That's 73.9% of that bar. All right? That's how you construct your segmented bar graph. Now, the logical question to follow this is there an association between age and the type of phone? Well, look at the bars. The segments of the different phones are very different for each of the age groups, which indicates that there is an association between age and type of cell phone. All right? We're going to do more of this in class and in your homework.